So today we're going to talk about scatter plots and associations. We're going to be able to answer what is a scatter plot, and then what types of associations or relationships can we see in scatter plots. So first, let's answer the question, what exactly is a scatter plot? Okay, and in your mind, you're probably thinking it reminds you of just a graph with a bunch of dots. You may have heard her refer to it as a dot plot, and you're correct. Okay, scatter plots are nothing more than graphs that use points to show data between two variables, and we call this bivariate data. Okay? And most of the time, our variables are going to be on that x and that y axis. Okay? Now, scatter plots we can use to see if there are any patterns or trends or correlations, what we call associations between these two variables. And this can determine if one of the variables has an effect on the other. So, for example, it is now 107 degrees in San Antonio. As the temperature increases, what do you think that does say to the sales of ice cream? Like if the ice cream man came through your neighborhood. You're right. As it gets hotter, we're going to want to buy ice cream because it's just too hot to do anything else and we need something cold. So as the temperature increases, the effect that it has on the sales of ice cream also increase. Okay, and we can look at that using scatter plot. Now on the reverse, when it gets to be February and we have that 1 week of cold weather in San Antonio when the temperature drops below 40, we're not buying a lot of ice cream from the ice cream man then. So as the temperature decreases, what's happening to our sales? Well, the same thing, like our sales of that ice cream are going to decrease. And so those are the associations that we want to look at when we're looking at scatter plots. So first, let's talk about the types of associations. And there are 3 types of associations with scatter plots. Okay? The first is that positive association. Okay? So as one variable increases, the other increases. Okay? So here you'll notice, looking at this scatter plot graph, if we look at our time, as time is increasing, meaning going from left to right on our graph, what is happening to our data? Well, our data is going up. Okay? They are moving in the same direction. As one increases, the other one increases. Okay? Now let's look at negative association. Okay? Well, with negative association, you can think of it as they're going in opposite directions. As one variable increases, the other variable decreases. And I can use the example between your number of absences in my class and your grades. More than likely, as you if you're absent a lot, your grades are probably going to decrease. Okay? So that is a negative association. And then at last, we have a no association. Okay? Oops. And by no association, look at this scatter plot. What do you think the relationship between the number of books read and your shoe size is? Okay, your number of books read and your shoe size. And look at this here. It's completely random. Okay, do you think that there is any type of association or effect that the number of books you read has an effect on your shoe size? Do you think the more books you read, the bigger your feet are? No, not at all. So there is no pattern observed here. And this is what we would refer to as that there's no association. Okay, so are those 3 types of associations with our scatter plots. So now we know that scatter plots, we can see the associations or the relationships, and there's 3 of them. There's that positive, a negative, or the no association. The next thing that we like to look at with scatter plots is whether they are linear or nonlinear. Okay, and linear means exactly what you think it is. Is it trending in a line. I like to use that term trending, and we'll get there in future lessons. But is it trending in a line? So let's look at this first one. Well, here, if I'm looking at the scatter plot, yeah, it's following a line. They all seem to be trending together. Okay. And then the same with this next one. Okay. It all seems to be trending in a line. Definitely a trend. So the data is in the shape of a line. Okay. And these two scatter plots are what we would refer to as they're both linear. Now let's take a look at what a nonlinear would look like. Okay. Here, if I were just to try to follow along, it almost looks like it's coming in the shape of a U. Okay. Data that is not linear, of course, is not in the shape of a line. Okay. And the same thing here, it looks like if I were to follow this along, nope, not at all. It has that curve, like maybe it's just that upside down U. So both of these would be examples of what would be a nonlinear relationship. Let's look at a few examples of some scatter plots. And on these following examples, we want to discuss and be able to identify, one, what type of association is going on here, and two, is the scatter plot linear or not? So let's take a look at the first one. So here I have a scatter plot, and I am looking at, on my x-axis, the number of days, and how does that affect my number of Instagram followers? Okay, so let's look at the data. Okay, let's look at the scatter plot. As my days increase, okay, look what is happening to my data. Okay, look what's happening to my scatter plot. It is trending down. Okay, are both my X and my Y, are they heading in the same direction? Well, as my days increase, what are my followers doing? My followers are going down. Okay, they're not, the variables are not increasing together. So this would be a negative association. Okay, I think negative association as one goes up, the other one goes down. Okay, now let's discuss if this is linear or not. Yeah, I think this is pretty linear. Okay, they're all trending in somewhat of a straight line. Doesn't have to be completely straight, but this is linear. Okay. Let's take a look at the next one. Okay. Now here, the first thing we want to do is we want to look at the scatter plot. Let's look at our X and our Y axis so we can see the variables that we are looking to see if there's any association, if there's a pattern. So here I'm looking at the number of texts sent. That's my X and my age. So we're trying to see what is the association between the number of texts sent and the age. Now look at this. This is what I would refer to as a true scatter plot. It is just all over the place here. Do you see any association? I see none at all, because here the number of texts, here, but my age could be here, or it could be here, it could be here. So there is no association. I cannot see a relationship between the number of texts sent and the age. Okay. And then let's take a look and see if we can tell if this is linear or not. Not at all. So this would be a non-linear relationship. Okay. Let's look at the next one. Now for number 3, we're going to look at the number of hours and the number of customers. So as the number of hours increase, what is happening with the number of customers? Well, I can follow this right along from here, and what is happening? Well, as my hours are increasing, my number of customers are increasing. Okay. So this is in fact a positive association. Okay. And then let's talk about, is this linear or non-linear? Be careful with this one, and sometimes it does help to try to draw. We'll get to what a trend line is in future lessons, but just try to follow that along. Okay. Now it has a bit of a curve right in there. This would be a non-linear, okay? It has a shape, okay? This does have a shape, but it is not a line pattern, okay? So this graph here would be a positive association, but it is non-linear. Now let's look at the next one in our final. Here's our ice cream sales and our temperature. As the temperature is increasing, what is happening to our ice cream sales? Do we see a relationship? Well, same thing. As the temperature is increasing, what's happening? It is trending. It is increasing. So here I have yet another positive association. Okay. Now let's talk about, is this linear or not? Meaning, is it following a straight line? Well, if I just follow right down the middle of this arrow that I have, yes, even though that there are some data points that are kind of out here and out here, it is still following in a straight line. So this would be a linear relationship. Now, the one thing that I do want to caution you on with scatter plots, or just bring your attention to, is that in these scenarios we have looked at scatter plots that were either trending up or trending down, and they were linear. Linear doesn't just mean going up or going down. Okay, we could have a scatter plot that is side to side. Okay, see here, it could be side to side, but if it's following a straight line, no matter in what direction, if it is side to side, like it's following along our x-axis, or if we have a linear relationship, if we have a scatter plot that perhaps is going all the way straight up, well, it is still on that straight line, so these would both be linear. I don't want you to fall into thinking that a linear is only following here what I see as the arrows, it's trending, it's a diagonal relationship. It is not. It can be vertical, it can be horizontal, and it can trend on a diagonal.